You need to be willing to have people walk you through the right way because you did the wrong way, but at least you took action on that way.
Exactly. And then you're at what started this topic in the first place with your questions. How do we get that first step going? Get it envisioned and be looking at not just avoiding failure, because if I'm avoiding failure, I might just hide and huddle and hunker down. And I've done that tons of times and I've never been proud of it. I've never been thrilled with the results. I've always been more pleased with when I took the risk and failed and grew from it.
What's going on, and welcome to the Take a Step podcast. I'm your host, Josh Johnston, founder of Take a Step. It's a community that's focused on bringing together like-minded individuals who are all purpose-driven towards taking action to maximize their God-given potential. If you find value in this podcast, please leave a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening. It really helps us to continue to grow this community and change more lives for the better. Feel free to give me a follow on social media at __take a step __, and reach out to me if you have any questions or just want to connect. With that being said, let's dive in. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Take a Step podcast. I'm excited for this episode. We have another special guest, and the reason I'm excited, if you're someone that loves leadership, that loves personal development, that loves, self-reflection and just figuring out new ways to grow and be the best version of yourself. Guest I got on today is one of the better leaders that I've been around. And it's a privilege to have him on the podcast. So Nathan Fowler, I know him as Exile, which we'll get into later in the podcast. Thanks for joining today.
Man, thank you for having me. Excited to be here and for the conversation we're going to have.
Awesome. Yeah. So what I really like to do, I want to I like being able to have, guests introduce themselves however it makes sense to them. So Exile, the floor is yours.
So to tell you a little bit about me, I'm born into a big family. I'm the 7th of 10 kids. So already the dynamic is a bit different than typical from the beginning. So interpersonal dynamics is always been a big part of my life because I'm extroverted, high energy guy that craves attention and constant validation. And I think that was accentuated by being part of a big family and wanting to be noticed and known and have an impact. Grew up in a big family, did Boy Scouts and martial arts and that kind of stuff coming up. And the impact of being in those kind of environments and I didn't realize it at the time, but part of what I really liked about it was getting mentorship. That's when I look back to my childhood, I recognize that's like a lot of my, like the warm memories for me are the times older siblings took me under their wing and gave me really good advice or shared real vulnerable from their life experiences, things that helped me. And so receiving mentorship from older siblings as a little kid, receiving mentorship from my karate teacher as a teenager and my scout master. It's a nerdy thing to do to be into Boy Scouts, but I was the scoutiest of Boy Scouts, man. I was all but wearing a pocket protector. I loved it so much. And a big part of it, though, in hindsight, and being able to examine that was I just really enjoyed the relationship and growth of getting to have mentors that wanted to invest in me. And so when you asked and kind of gave me the cue up to like introduce yourself, and I'm thinking about, why do I get so excited about leadership conversations? Like, I am disproportionately enthusiastic about these topics. And so perhaps that's where it started. And then in my adult life, that has translated into being part of my career, part of how I'm involved in my local church, which is really important to me. And my wife and I are both active there, and in a fitness organization called F3, a men's fitness and leadership training organization that I've been part of for 5 years now, as of last week. And it's kind of a thread between all those, just wanting to grow as a leader and seeing how high I have an impact that makes on our personal lives and those around us. It excites me. It's fun. It's humbling, because the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know much and I've got a lot to learn.
Mm.
But the good news is that means I get to keep growing. So that's, I don't know if that's a good intro or not, but that's a good, that's my
Yeah, no,
best, that's my
that's
best
perfect.
making it a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I love just kind of hearing, how the foundation was set for,
Yeah.
what your mindset was behind why you're so passionate about leadership. And I know specifically just from a physical perspective, a lot of leadership is being able to lead by example and set the bar for what that, example should be and how people can follow after that example. And I know you've taken on some pretty ridiculous physical endeavors over the past, decade or so in your life. And I've heard a little bit about just kind of your family background and coming from, not the healthiest of situations. I'd love to hear a little bit about, how you navigated coming out of a background that, didn't push, pushing yourself physically with your, with your fitness, with your nutrition. I'd love to kind of hear how you navigated that background and kind of how you embodied this role of, for the listeners, a guy that runs, ultra marathons, looks like he's a bodybuilder, but is still getting out there running, 100-mile races, 50-mile races, like it's something you do every day. So I'd love to kind of hear how you navigated that background to embody this kind of, physical specimen that so many people in F3 consider you to be.
Well, some context specifically to physical training. I mentioned I had done karate, like traditional Shaolin style kind of martial arts, starting from when I was about 11, and did that, all through my teen years. And that was a pretty hardcore physical training, was a big part of it, like conditioning. And I really liked that.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I never really did any sports. My family was not a sports family. We were an arts family. I mean, you see all the guitars, on the walls.
Yeah.
I was the music geek. My brother was a painter, and he's still a full-time painter to this day. Very artsy family. So sports and physical training and diet nutrition was not a top of mind conversation, outside of just, for some of us, when we did karate for that decade or so, and the martial arts training and discipline there was a good influence. But my family culture around food and exercise was, I would say, just very average for an 1980s, 1990s family. It was, you just kind of got what was at the grocery store. It included a lot of packaged foods. There'd be cereal, there'd be processed foods. Um, it was average. And that's actually, I think, the thing that kind of scares me the most. Like, it was just normal. Um, and that was sustainable through being young and being teenage, and having kind of been doing martial arts kind of helped. But then as I got into my 20s, my wife and I married at 21. And I would go on some backpacking trips with a buddy. I would mountain bike once a week. I'd rock climb some. And so I was active, but there was no discipline to it. There was no plan. In my mind, through the first half of my 20s, it was, I'm good because I mountain bike once a week and I'm rock
Mm-hmm.
climbing. Sometimes I'll hop on the elliptical for a minute that they have in the corner at the climbing gym. That kind of stuff. So I'm like, I'm fit. And I was kind of riding the wave of just being young and thinking it was fitness.
Yeah.
Really. I was riding youthfulness and thinking I was doing good. And it just kind of gradually crept up on me. And I'm not quite 5'10". I'm an average, maybe a little shorter, average height guy. And I remember on my 25th birthday, 230 pounds. And that's like pretty low muscle tone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I remember about that time looking up, hey, what's the numbers for obese for a man who's
Oh gosh.
5'10"? It didn't go well. It didn't go well because technically, so I look it up and I'm obese technically on paper. And that was a big light bulb moment for me. Like, I am thinking about this wrong. If I can, without noticing, gradually slip into this kind of physical condition where I'm overweight, poor muscle tone, low muscle mass. I was a very fluffy 230 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's not, the thing is that nobody else was making any comment because that's not uncommon. It's just not
normal.
uncommon in our society. I was a normal guy.
Yeah.
But I looked at that and went, average is not good. Normal's not good. This isn't good. Like, this is not well. And it hit home for me because in my teens, my mom had 2 heart attacks in my teens. She's in her 50s at that time, and she had 2 separate cardiac events. Yeah. So what I thought about with those things on my 25th birthday, I'm kind of reflecting when I'm a quarter century old. This is objectively where my health is really at. I know I have some family history that I need to watch about blood pressure and heart health. Both my parents were on some heart medications, and when I'm going, is that what I want for my future? And what my mind went to is, what did my parents look like on their 25th birthday? And they don't have a whole lot of pictures from their teenagers in the 60s, the 70s, but at 25, they would have had 3 kids already, my parents, and the photos of them from that season, they're really trim, right? They look very trim. They look lean, right? They look real healthy. And my family is not known for being skinny people or stocky, people. My cousins play rugby, right? We all look like defense for a football team, right? That's the Fowler genetics. And so I'm like, but at this point in life, my parents looked really lean. They looked like runners, right? And I think, but me at 25, the trajectory I'm on looks like I'm going to beat my mom to having heart attacks even younger. Like, that's what I look like. I mean, that's me imagining and being extreme, but it shook me. It shook me and got my attention. So, that's when I went going mountain biking once a week and occasionally going rock climbing. This ain't cutting it. I was finding at that time when I would go mountain biking, I was out of breath the whole time. So, like, it wasn't even fun anymore to mountain bike because I was just getting through, and that, like, a 6-mile ride.
Yeah.
I would, good job. You rode a 6-mile trail today. Huffing, puffing. Oh man. Yeah. I thought that was, and so I was like, all right, I got to do something to get fit. I'm young. Me and the wife, we didn't have a lot of money. So, like, I'm not getting a gym membership, but I called up a friend that I had known through many years. And I remember in high school, our good friend Leslie was always running all the time. She was the person that in high school would be like, Leslie, did you run this morning? 6 miles. I'm like that's how she's starting her day, that energy level. Like, we're dragging into high school biology classes, and she's like, 6 miles this morning. Calm down. And so I call Leslie. Leslie, help me have an intervention with myself. How do I buy running shoes? And this is what I did. I was like, I think my best strategy is to get a pair of running shoes, because then there's no excuse. I walk out the door and I run. And
it seems like the barrier to entry for running, if you want to take that serious, is almost nothing.
That's what I was hoping, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for easy, sustainable, and something I could start right now. And maybe dump 50 or $70 into a pair of shoes and go.
Yeah.
And because biking, I'd already found part of my problem with biking was I had to maintain the bike. I had to get it out, prep it up, load it on the car, drive to the trailhead, bike for however long I'm going to bike on the trails, load it back on the car,
Yeah.
get it home, wash the mud off, change clothes. And so that was on my mind, like, okay, I really do need something very simple. So I begrudgingly went to Kohl's and this is what it is. And Leslie was like, A6 would be a good start. Okay. So I went and got a pair of A6 trail shoes because I didn't know if there's a difference between trail shoes and road shoes.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was just like, well, it's just how they look, right? And I think the trail shoes look cool. Yeah. So I bought a pair of A6. I think they were trail shoes. It's been so long. And just went home and tried to run a mile and landed back at the house gassed, trying not to puke my guts out after doing a mile.
Yeah.
It was super humbling.
Yeah.
And so that was 25. I'm 38 now. That was 25. So 13 years ago. And it was just this begrudging, like, for me, the carrot was, but I need to be fit. I need to be healthy in my old age for my grandkids. And in the short term, I want to be healthy for my wife. I want to have more energy, and I want to be able to enjoy when I go mountain biking. I want to go and like shred the trails and have a good time, not gasp for air and be like, this is fun,
Yeah.
So I was really like, I'm going to run so I can mountain bike. That was my short term, like that's my short term gratification in service of the long term goals for me. And so I just started running and started running a little more, started running a lot more. And that led to, like, me and my brother, I get him to start running. So now I've got a partner. Now I've got some accountability. He and I can meet up once a week or so and run together. And we're talking about running. I read this book. Oh, I listened to this video. I found out this about shoes. We're just talking about it, getting excited about it, getting consistent together.
It's funny how having like just one person can be like that accelerator for you in your physical journey or in your fitness journey.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And he's a researcher, so he would dive in and find all sorts of information, and then we'd talk on our run. About that same time, he and I also both started a men's leadership book group on Friday mornings, and so our rhythm was we'd meet up at the local Chick-fil-A with 4 or 5 guys. We're going through a different leadership book, rotating through different books and having conversation every Friday morning. And then he and I would go run afterwards if we were able to. And so a lot of Fridays, he and I could then go and run. And so that really, it was right there. Leadership and fitness were already connected, and kind of sharing lessons. And he and I had this harebrained idea, like, we could train up and do a marathon. And it just escalated from there.
Yeah. It's cool. And that's what I love about, I preached the philosophy behind building a community and how your relationships can shape the kind of person you want to be. The quote I say all the time is one of Andy Stanley's quotes is, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And like, if you want to, be this certain person that embodies these huge physical challenges, then go find individuals. If you want to accelerate that journey, then go find individuals who have that same mindset and take action on the things that you want to be action oriented about.
Yes.
So yeah, it's really cool how that's kind of the accelerator. And, I've seen some, we've mentioned F3 a couple times, and, what F3 is I'll kind of give a brief overview of it. Is it's it's the mission of F3 is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for men to invigorate male community and leadership. And it's such a cool concept because, like we were talking about, the barrier to entry for running, F3 makes, being around like-minded men who want to, they want to take their fitness serious, but there's more depth behind just a workout. It's the F stands for faith, fellowship, or fitness, fellowship, faith. And so the philosophy behind it is finding depth behind more than just a workout, but you get to fellowship with others because, that fellowship is the accelerator. And then, having a deeper meaning behind, there's a greater power than just ourselves. We don't just serve ourselves. And that's where the faith comes into play. So, and obviously you've been a part of the organization for so long and have certain leadership roles with it. I love to hear how, it's impacted your life and your journey and kind of the main values and your main takeaways from being involved with F3.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. Chronologically, that's spot on. So I was kind of meandering up and down, running solo for a while, then get my brother into it. So now he's my running buddy. I didn't know anybody else that ran.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any running buddies except for my brother who I had talked into it. And he and I start this men's leadership group. That's probably 2013, start of 2014. Yeah, doing that. And a few years later, he has the opportunity to go work for Ramsey Industries or Ramsey
Solutions.
Ramsey Solutions. Thank you. Up in Nashville. We're in Atlanta. And he's talking to me about it, man, this is really cool, but I don't know about going to Nashville. And we talk back and forth, and it's like, dude, you've got to go. This is it was such a perfect fit for him. But he's like one of my closest friends at the time. Right? Well, he's still one of my closest friends. I shouldn't say it that way. But I was a typical guy that didn't have a lot of close, proximate, consistent relationship with guys outside of this Friday morning leadership book group that's built by myself and my brother. And he's now, hey, the next step for me is this job opportunity, but I don't want to give up what I have here. And it's like, man, this lines up so much with you and your wife and your values and your future. Go. And so he went for it and got the job and moved up to Nashville. And in 2017, he and I ran our first marathon that fall, the Savannah Rock and Roll Marathon. Yeah. But now my running buddy's gone, and one of my closest friends is now 4 hours away. And so I'm back to really running on my own, and kind of meandered my way. He and I met up and did that Savannah marathon in 2017, shortly after we moved to Nashville. I walked most of it because I had busted my ankle halfway through the training program. But because I had my brother also registered, he was still trained up. He's like, we're doing it. I'm like, okay, I'll do it if you'll do it. And then, I was cramping up the whole last 6 miles, but he helped me through. Wouldn't quit, And people would ask afterwards, well, how did it go? You've been talking about this marathon. You've been excited. I'm like, it was terrible. I loved it. I loved it. It was so bad. I loved it. And so he and I did another in Nashville in 2018 as an excuse to get together and to accelerate a little further. But going through 2018, I was definitely feeling the sense of some things in life like stalling out for me, not just physical health, not having any accountability local, but relationally and in my growth personally too. It was a hard year in a lot of ways, learning hard lessons just in interpersonal relationships, combined with my brother moving away. And I'm a little bit isolated, not having many close friends around. And my fitness is decelerating because he's also my running partner. And early 2019, right at the start of the year, I run into a buddy at the coffee shop early in the morning who is not known to me to be an early morning person. And he's in workout clothes, and he's not known to me to be somebody who works out. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing at 7 a.m. at the coffee shop? He's like, oh, I just wrapped up this boot camp workout across the street at the park called F3. I'm like, I saw that online. That's that men's boot camp thing. It says it's free. Is it really free? Like, yeah, it's actually free. And I had
It's
seen
funny
it with
that's our first question. Is it free? All right, maybe I'll think about it then.
what's the catch? Like, really? It's really
Yeah,
free?
yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no, like it's really free. It's always free. Okay. And but then I had seen it was Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. And I'm like, I don't remember how I asked him exactly, but basically I was like, well, is it good? He's like, it's awesome. He's telling me how great it is. It's such a hard workout. He's like, I thought I was gonna die my first day last summer. I'm like, really? And I was like, well, like Faith, I think like Christian music and Christian movies, is it
Yeah. Doesn't really
is it
align with like wanting to like
yeah,
get after
is
it and
it
put yourself through something
is it
horrible.
yeah, is it kind of like almost great, and
Yeah.
and he's like, no, it's awesome, you should come out. And he invited me out the next week, and so I came out February 6th of 2019 and went and visited, posted to my first F3 workout. And I was mostly surrounded by predominantly guys like a decade older than me and some even older than that. And I was sucking wind trying to keep up. I was struggling
Yeah.
trying to keep up with these guys, looking around going, okay. Now at that point, for fitness context, I had done the 2 marathons. My brother and I had just done our first 50K trail race marathon, ultra marathon, the fall of 2018. And I'm still a portly-ish, stocky guy at that time. But, I'm doing that, and I'm cross-training at a group fitness gym a couple days a week. And so I'm thinking I'm doing good, And I show up to this boot camp, and I had it handed to me.
Yeah, get humbled.
I got humbled.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And then 45 minutes of just suffering. I'm trying not to puke. I'm at the back of the group thinking, I can't come back. This is too embarrassing for me to just be the youngest guy here, and I cannot keep up. And I just ran an ultra marathon 4 months ago, and I know I'm not, an athlete, but what the heck? And
Yeah.
my ego was so beat up.
Like I thought I was in
bruised.
the 1%. I run an ultra marathon.
I thought it was at least average.
Yeah.
But not in this group of middle-aged dudes who are doing push-ups and burpees and bear crawls and duck walks and all this stuff, sprinting up a hill, doing a burpee up there, sprinting down the hill, doing 10 push-ups and doing a bunch of rounds of that. And I'm thinking like, well, I can't quit till the end because I don't want them to see me sneak out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the guys comes back over to me and goes, hey man, how you doing? And just hung with me at the back for a minute. And he goes, oh yeah, I've lost 90 pounds since I started doing this. And the guys have never left me behind. This is such a good group of guys. We're glad you're here. Like, this is the kind of stuff he's telling me. And seeing and hearing that genuine story from him, telling me some things about his experience and his genuine encouragement to me, made me feel even smaller, but in like a really healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was receiving it and going, man, how is this like very masculine, high intensity workout group also this vulnerable and accepting, and this doesn't compute in my brain. Something's different here. And they finish up at 45 minutes is the end of that scheduled workout. And then they circle up at the end of every workout for what they call the circle of trust, making fun of the circle of trust and Meet the Parents.
Yeah.
You're in the circle of trust now. They totally make fun of themselves with that. Yeah. We're in the circle of trust. But the idea being that like, hey, as men, we need time with other men around us where we can share what's on our heart. heavy
Mm-hmm.
or to celebrate or to get asked for prayers or thoughts or help or encouragement and just actually share that. And I've never seen outside of F3 personally, uh, guys get that vulnerable together. There's something about doing something really difficult together for 45 minutes that now we're actually primed and connected and bonded with a level of trust that isn't there if we just sit in a circle around a book, which had been the method I had been pursuing for years with my leadership book group of guys, which
Yeah.
wasn't bad. But this had something different. And that stood out to me like, wait, we're really getting into it together. Wow. And so that was my stepping into F3. And I'm finding guys who want to get vulnerable and actually work on our character together in those, as I continued posting to workouts and being in that
Mm-hmm.
COT and being in those conversations and seeing that they wanted to grow in leadership, wanted to take care of their fitness, and that resonated with values and desires I had for me, recognizing I need to grow in those areas and I need people in my corner, because in the past I had one. I had my brother, and he's 4 hours away. And now I found a bunch of guys that, like, when I say, hey, does anybody want to like train for an ultra marathon? Like, several guys go, yeah, I'll talk with you about that. When are you looking? You know, I'm like, really?
Like,
Like,
this is my tribe. This is my tribe. You mentioned ultra marathon. I was like, what?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm finding people that, and not all of them do. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of guys in there like, I'm not a runner, I'm not going to run. But there is a support and desire to improve ourselves together, caring for our physical fitness in balance with being an essential part of improving and growing in our leadership, becoming the leader God made each of us to be, being a servant in our community the way we are meant to be. And that's how all those puzzle pieces fit together. And now I found a tribe of guys that are pursuing that together. And that was the beginning of a lot of increased momentum and sustainability for me, because now it's like you said, yeah, I found a tribe that I needed to be able to really build where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and it's so cool to kind of see the dynamic of each workout because, like you said, there's this core group of guys that the sound of an ultra marathon is like crack to them, but some of them are like I like running's not my thing. So it's so cool to see people at every stage in their fitness journey. Some of them are trying to lose a ton of weight. Some of them are in peak physical condition relative to their situation. So how the concept of modifying is necessary for each of these workouts allows for an approach where it doesn't matter where you are, like you're going to get
Yes.
some good work in that morning and
Yeah.
grow physically and also in fellowship with one another. So the concept of that is a dynamic that it's very hard to replicate.
Yeah. And it's a very real example. As you said a bit ago, the mission of F3 is that plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for the
Mm-hmm.
invigoration of male community leadership. That's a really interesting concept. Like, hey, we're planning on growing and serving small workout groups for men for the invigoration of leadership. And as we go through a workout, we take turns. That's how they keep it free, is just amateur dudes who are just out here working out together.
Mm-hmm.
Sign up on the sheet. I'm going to lead the workout on the 7th. And whatever that guy makes up for the workout on the 7th, we're all just like, all right, you're leading. We're going to be followers and go along and give our best effort to whatever we have. Well, that guy might think it's a great idea to start with 100 push-ups, which we call Americans because it's the most stereotypical American exercise. There's a lot of jargon at F3. So be like, the next exercise is the American, and you're going to do 100 on your own. And then we do the next thing. We're like, wait, how many? Well, that's a lot to do. That happened just in the last week, that exact thing. And I'm going,
Mm-hmm.
if I try and do these perfectly, I cannot do 100 nonstop. I'd sure love to say, I'd love to tell you that I can. I cannot. There's some guys that can, and then there's some guys that are like, man, I'm struggling to do 10. But we can all together, and it's such a beautiful metaphor for leadership. We have to start where we are and do what we can, but not accept any slack.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot make any excuses for, well, I can only do 9. And it's like, well, then do 9 perfect. And
Yeah.
then modify to your knees instead of your toes. and then do as many as you can. If that's 9 more, perfect. Do 9 more. And then take a break, get up to your knees, shake your arms out, and do 8 more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you can't do sets of 8, do sets of 7, do sets of 5, but don't stop. Be okay with failure. Be okay with the hurt to your ego. We don't grow in our fitness without failing, and we don't grow in our leadership without failing. And that's a
Mm.
very intentional thread in F3. It's very intentional that the fitness and leadership, the lessons we learn from failing, the lessons we learn in how to grow muscle, how to grow strength and speed and stamina and endurance, apply directly to growing in our leadership. And they all rely on humility and community.
Yeah, 100%. Like the concept, a lot of guys when they start out the workouts, when the leaders of these workouts, they'll say, I'm not a professional because you don't need certification to lead a workout. It's pure lead. And they'll say modify as needed, but not, some people will add on, not just as desired or not just to be comfortable. Which makes that, it's relative struggle. Everything is relative depending on where you are in your fitness journey. So, if 100 push-ups is doable for you and you can do more, throw in a little bit extra. But if you can't, if 10 push-ups is hard for you, then grind out 8. Take 10 seconds, and then as soon as you can muscle up enough courage to get back up there and do 1 or 2 more reps, then get back up there. But you're not just going to modify the workout to make it comfortable for you. It's going to be challenging for you for wherever you are. I think that leader, and that's what makes a good leader of the workout. That's how it builds leadership, is being able to, apply a good workout for anybody relative to where they are. So it's tough for a lot of people, but I think that's what ultimately breeds great leaders out of F3.
Yeah, a good leader of a workout may or may not be the most eloquent in his delivery of his instructions, of his plan. He may or may not be a commanding presence or an extrovert. A lot of the guys that do an excellent job leading that workout are introverted, quiet guys. But a great leader sets a tone where we as a group are here for one another, to push one another. They set a tone of we're not going to, a lot of times you'll hear the F3 credo is leave no man behind, but leave no man where we found him. So it doesn't matter, like you said, how fit a guy is. Good for him. If you're a stud right now and you're in peak condition and the sun's shining on you, awesome. Happy for you. Great that you're in a great place in your training cycle. But rain falls on the righteous and wicked alike. We all get a sprained ankle here and there. We all pull a muscle, and then it turns out to mess things up for a lot longer than we thought. Things happen. Sometimes we're starting from a place of where I was, at 25, where it's like, I've got a lot of weight to lose and this is going to be a long haul. And in both fitness and in my leadership, I have often failed to be willing to not be very good at whatever I'm doing. And so I've fallen into the trap of wanting to try and do my prep in secret to get the best image to present before anybody else sees it, because it hurts the ego to be seen not looking great. It hurts the ego to be seen failing. It hurts the ego to be seen and I can only do 5 of the push-ups. And that's truly where I was when I started F3. Just for context on the physical, I had a mountain bike accident in 2014 and was in a sling for 3 months. And the rules for that 3 months were, look, you can't exercise at all, because in order to avoid having a reconstructive surgery, I had to be very still, keeping my shoulder and arm supported by the sling, sleeping with my arm tied to me. And the orthopedist was like, you're young enough that if you do all this, you should be able to get without surgery. So at 2019, I was still just building back to doing push-ups on my toes, not on my knees. And I was not ever really doing more than 10. And the form was not great. So I'm coming out and failing a lot and looking around like everybody's watching me only do push-ups that were instructed, or doing them on my knees. And I really thought that way. Like, how self-centered. And I
Yeah.
do the same thing as a leader, right? Like, everybody's watching me. If you're the leader, hey, newsflash, nobody cares about you. You're the least important person if you're the leader, because you're there to serve everybody else in the room. And in the same way, at the workout, nobody's looking at my push-ups, my Americans. They're working on their own. They're working on their own. Like,
Yeah.
if I can only do 9 today, and the guys that do look are looking to support and help and be an accountability check and encourage and be like, hey man, I saw you got a few more today. Like, keep up. Hey, don't quit. They'll come over and know it's like, hey, I already finished mine, but I see you're still struggling to get yours done. Come on, I'll do some with you. All right. The instructions were to do 30 and you're at 17 in and you're struggling and falling, because I was rebuilding my shoulder. And a guy's coming up next to me side by side. He's interrupting his workout to come over side by side with me. He sees that I'm struggling. And all right, well, if you've got 12 left, I'll do 6 of yours. Let's go. Let's do them in cadence together, in sync. And it's like, it's a humbling thing to go, not only can I not hide my failure right now, but the people around me in the arena that see it aren't ranking me on some system or scorekeeping. They're seeing it as an opportunity to come and motivate me.
Yeah.
Because they're looking to build this community, because there's going to be days he's going to need motivation. Or there's going to be days that another guy needs motivation and he's not there and he's expecting to build it up in me, and I'm going to do it for that guy. And that started to soften me up a little bit and kind of descale ego. Here in this boot camp workout for guys at 5:30 in the morning, and we act like children. It's adult recess. It's totally adult recess. But we're doing this tough workout, and it's challenging my ego in ways that soften me. And then that directly correlates me recognizing, oh, this is the same pitfalls I have as a leader in my marriage. This is the same pitfalls I have to watch for as a parent to my 2 kids. This is definitely the same things that affect my leadership at work or in organizations at church. And saying, vulnerability and willingness to fail is essential. And not only do I need that, I need to hold that center, that balance of that tension, between excellence and failure, and that we're always riding those. Because if I just chase seeming, there's the saying, esse quam videre, to be rather than to seem. If I just chase excellence and results, if I just chase telling people about how I run marathons, I'm wanting to seem like a marathoner. And that is for my ego. I don't want to feed my ego, because my ego is actually the very thing that will stall out my growth and my ability to serve and lead effectively. But I'm gravitating towards it, though. My nature wants it.
Yeah. I think there's a quote. I don't remember what the source was, but I heard it, and it wrecked me, but I resonated so much with it, because my ego is something that I've always, had this, inward battle with, and we all do as men, especially men that, want to, be this, alpha resembling guy. But it's the ego. Sometimes the ego needs a bad day so the soul can have a good day.
Come on.
Like, just relating to like the ability to be vulnerable and put yourself in situations to where your ego is going to take a hit. If you only put yourself in situations where, your ego is going to be boosted, then how are you going to ever have any inward growth? It's always going to be, a spotlight on me. If you're only putting yourself around people who, there's not going to be any sense of vulnerability when you're around them. So I love the concept of like being willing to allow your ego to take a hit, to allow yourself to fail, so that, you can ultimately have more growth. And what the great part that I love, how, your physical health and fitness and taking that ego hit in your physical health relays into every other aspect of life. Like you said, your marriage, how you're showing up at work, how you're showing up for your kids, how you're showing up in how you're being an ambassador for Christ in your church, and how you're taking that out into the community. There's so many areas that, like, being able to say, hey, if I can put myself in situations to where I can actually not be the one that has all the answers, but be willing to learn, be willing to fail, so that I can ultimately grow from that. Like there's so much power in that. And that saying like that sometimes that the ego needs a bad day so the soul can have a good day. I'm like that hit hard for me.
For sure. That's great. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I know. And one of the things that we talk about, I mentioned the name Exile. I mean, like you talk about Merkins, and it definitely has F3 has its own lingo. That especially for a new guy, it's not a cult, winky face, but but it definitely has that lingo to where everything's kind of, they have their own. They call workouts certain names. Everybody gets their own name when they come to F3. That's it's a fun play on words that it really embodies like the culture of just coming and you just got to own it. You know what I mean? You go in, you own it, and there's so many lives that have been changed because of it.
Yeah.
But something that's funny that we actually talked about a couple of weeks ago, I remember, is the identity shift that comes from that you took out of owning, this new personality is like pre F3, post F3 for you. There was Nathan, and now there's Exile. And I remember you were explaining that, and it sounds cheesy, but at the end of the day, it's like when you really like dig into it, like we talked about the identity shift, and I want to hear like from you, how where your identity shift, like how that happened, what are the implications of the kind of this new persona that you've taken on since owning this F3, this go getter. I'd love for you just to kind of speak to that.
Sure. So concurrent with my personal health and fitness journey, kind of starting in 2011, was that 25th birthday. I was also working in ministry full time, primarily as a music minister, sometimes doing associate pastor stuff as well. It just depended on the season for different over the years. At a pretty large church in my hometown, and leading into spring of 2018, some relationships with others on the team were souring. And there's some leadership failures on both sides, definitely on my side. But I had made my career, my position, my responsibilities in ministry really my top priority.
Mm-hmm.
The real priority in my life was the position in which I served, being on stage singing every Sunday. Like that mattered very much to me, and it mattered for the people I was impacting and the ways I got to serve, and lots of good and healthy things, but also some unhealthy. I was super attached to that. And in 2018, that caught up to me, and I was juggling too many things, trying to build this perfect persona of Nathan to be the perfect guy. I wanted to, that OCD perfectionist streak in me I was charging hard, and my family was not getting my best, my primary focus. And so that's, in hindsight, that's conversation my wife and I have had, and really, I'm grateful for the way things have played out, because I've really got a hard reset a lot through F3. But so in 2018, that ended suddenly against my will when I was fired and removed from the church where I put all my eggs in that basket: my career, my identity, my social network, everything except for running was that church. Like I was 110% in and couldn't understand why anybody else would be any different. A little obsessive compulsive. I have an addictive personality. I dive in a little too much if I'm unchecked and don't have some guardrails around what I get into. And that my career ministry, and because it's for a good cause and for the community, and for, in my mind, in service of the Lord, it's healthy things, it helped justify being totally disproportionately unbalanced on that. But that totally imploded on me in 2018. Huge failure. Lost my job. Can't go to that church. anymore. Like it's just the hit to my ego was massive, and I was crushed on so many levels. So that's summer of 2018. So I lose my job and immediately I go for a run. And I had lots of lonely runs. That's when I did that first ultra marathon, was that year.
Mm-hmm.
So then so that's important to know. That's important to know because then your first day, sometimes depending where you go, if you're ever going to go visit an F3 workout, disclaimer, some regions do it differently. Here in Woodstock, Georgia, at your first workout, at the end of the workout, when you get to that circle of trust, they invite you to stand in the middle of the circle and tell us about yourself for 60 seconds. We're going to make up a name for you. You're going to get a nickname right now. Your first day, you're FNG. Your first day, you don't get called Nathan. Like I roll up and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm Nathan. I'm here with Daniel. They're like, who? Oh, you mean gut check? Okay. You're an FNG? I'm like, and they go, okay, FNG. I'm like, what? What's happening? So you're a friendly new guy is who you are on the first day. And that's your name for that whole first 45 minutes is FNG. Hey, FNG, come over here. Oh, so I get to the end of that first workout and I share a little bit about that context. And hey, here's what's happened in the last year of my life. And I just was emotionally real raw about it. I don't know why. Something about 45 minutes of working out and that guy coming back to encourage me when I was thinking about sneaking back to my car.
Yeah.
Opened me up. And I'm like, yeah, I lost my job last summer. And I have always been the model employee. I've always been the top performer. I've always been the best in class. I've always been the person they brought to the front of the Boy Scout troop as a kid and said, see, guys, be like Nathan, sew your own patches. Don't make your mom sew them. And
Yeah.
Oh, man, those attaboys. And, right?
Yeah.
And so that's been crushed in 2018, like going through a meat grinder. And I show up to my first workout and I share a little bit about that in the circle of trust. And they go, what about we name him like Moses or something? Wasn't he like kicked out and Exile? And they name me Exile. And I'm like, oh, cool.
I was trying to get past this.
Oh, yes. I'm like,
yeah.
Wait, so now every subsequent workout I show up to, they're going to call me a word that specifically encapsulates the most traumatic season of my life that, by the way, is not even 12 months ago, still bleeding out of that emotional wound. So that's what I'm walking into. And I'm like, I guess that's just what you do. So I just roll with it. And it just stung every time somebody called me Exile for the first couple weeks. Then it stung a little less. And I started thinking, yeah, so what? So what if that, who cares? And Exile started to become this thing. A few months in, I'm starting to post a lot of these workouts. I'm starting to become consistent. I've canceled the group workout gym membership by 2 or 3 months in. And I'm going to F3 now 3 or 4 days a week, going to a boot camp somewhere in my hometown. There are different locations. And one of the guys that I had known for years, who's also going to work on, he goes, hey man, the Exile thing, we can rename, like we can come up with a different name for it. That's, he was closely involved with the whole church fallout situation and he knew that I was just wrecked by that. And he goes, let's rename you. Let's get a different name. And I was like,
which doesn't happen, by the way.
If you want a different name, you can petition, go, guys, I usually, so here's one. Guys always, I've only ever seen it play out this way. It's like a DM or a text, like a guy that's new that I invite. I'll be like, hey, my wife really doesn't like the name I got. My wife really thinks they always blame their wife. I'm like, dude, I can see straight that your wife, no, you're embarrassed to be named whatever. And I'll be like, hey, just sit with it a couple weeks. Come to a couple more workouts and meet some of the other guys. There's much worse names than you have. Trust me, there always are. And after a few more weeks, the guys go, oh, even the names that sound cool, like Exile sounds like something from an action movie until you hear, oh, I had just been fired. My life had been totally destroyed and I was rebuilding from the ashes and massive embarrassment. And they named me Exile because I was fired and kicked out of a large church. where I put all my eggs in that basket. And guys go, oh, Snot Rocket's pretty good. I like Snot Rocket. I'll be Snot Rocket.
Yeah, I definitely lucked out on my name after hearing everyone else's stories, because especially when it comes to, I mean, I say I lucked out, but then again, when I talk about how much I need to work on, checking my ego, I guess my name doesn't really help, being that it's Quadzilla.
Quadzilla. But what's great is see, in my case, they were like making fun of like that history, and they didn't even realize how much that's exactly what I needed. In your case, we're making fun of you because it's like, yeah, obviously you're very fit. And so we're going to mock how excellently you take care of your physique and your
But
health.
at the same time, like for me, it's like it honestly, I'm like, all right, now I have to work out my legs. Like I have no choice. I don't have an option.
You do.
Yeah.
Because if you show up springtime when we're not wearing like leggings or pants anymore, the weather starts warming up, we're not wearing as many layers, and you don't have quads, dude, what are you doing? And that exactly describes what kind of happened with me with Exile. As I jumped in and became known as Exile, I was also accelerating my fitness, and that extra 20 pounds that I still had to lose, now in this healthy community of guys, I finally got that last 20 pounds off. And I started putting on muscle, and I went from doing a ultra to getting to do a few ultras and finding one or two guys that would go with me. And Exile was the guy that rallied people together and trained consistently and pushed hard and was really committed to doing excellent American form, like those push-ups all the way down, all the way up. And that's what Exile was known as. And I was realizing this identity that was getting built up was real. It was me, but it was an intentional decision to deviate away from the guy that would tolerate where I would gain weight and lose weight and gain weight and lose weight. And I'd run for a season consistently, and then I'd fall off the wagon because, well, I sprained my ankle, and the next thing you know, it's been 9 months since I've gone for a run. Like, in the context of community, my identity, I was able to start rebuilding. And I actually, but I think internal dialogue really matters a lot. And so it matters a lot, at least for me. If I don't direct my internal dialogue, my emotions make a bunch of excuses and rationalize them very well in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's normal human, but it's definitely the case for me. And I found, just like you said, Quadzilla, you want to live up to that bar and not let the guys down. Like that's silly and it's funny, but it's also like I think if we dug into that, you genuinely have like, hey, these guys are giving me respect in a making fun of me, mocking me way.
Yeah.
But these guys are giving me respect. And this is part of how we're like invited into and love and joking with one another. That's how we do it as guys. And I want to earn every day the respect and love that these guys give me. I want to continue to earn every day. Doesn't matter what I did yesterday. Doesn't matter what I did last year. And for me, becoming Exile was an intentional part of that. Over time, I kind of unearthed. In 2020, at the start of the year, I decided to try and take on a 100-mile ultra marathon. So 2011 went, I will begrudgingly run a mile and suck wind because I have to do something. And now we get to 2020 and I'm going, I think I could run a 100-mile ultra marathon. I think maybe I could pull this off. And the hours I spent in training and running, the conversations I got to work with a fitness and nutrition coach locally. I don't know if I should throw out his name or not. Brian Skuris is the guy, but his business is One Life Coaching.
What's his name?
Brian Skuris.
Okay.
One Life. He does running groups. He does individual coaching. He works with everything from people wanting to lose weight to people wanting to run ultra marathons or Ironmans. He's got a triathlete background, and he's a guy he's a man of faith. We share a faith in Jesus. We share a desire to grow and balance it as husbands and dads. So we were very aligned, and he is an incredible, the guy is a stud physically and knows He knows his stuff. We did biometrics. We went through my diet, went through my training plan, and we had some really, he so gently, but set me straight on some, like, I had a lot more negative self-talk in my mind than I realized. I had a lot more self-deprecating, I suck in my core beliefs than I realized. And getting into the process of running a 100-mile ultra and training for that, I thought I was just going to go do a cool thing and just see if I could do it. I did not realize what I was signing up for was this deepening of building this exile man, reshaping myself and chiseling away these like super negative beliefs I had about myself and building very small, laying bricks to build a foundation of different internal dialogue, because I was actually creating the deficit in my psyche that needed the accolades and needed attention and needed external validation. And as I started rebuilding and going, I'm going to be Exile, these guys at this workout group, they insult me. They surround me and support me when I can't do all the reps. They celebrate with me when I have a good race. Like, these guys mourn with me when I mourn, and they celebrate with me when I am celebrating. Yeah. And they see me as Exile, and I want to be even more Exile, and I want to bring that guy to my marriage and to all the layers in which I can serve as a leader. And so I started actually kind of intentionally and I never told any about this. I've really not talked about this much because I think it's silly, but if it can help you, this is probably weird, but it genuinely has worked for me, is that I adopted a new identity. And I think about, like, in Christ, we're a new creation. And Paul talks about how I do the things I wish I didn't do, and the things I wish I did are the things I don't do. And I started recognizing I have this duality in me, and I'm a very extreme duality, my personality traits. I can be very polar, very high highs, very low lows. That's the artist, the musician, the guy that wants to go and charge ahead, but I'm also have low lows. And I started realizing I can steer that, because Paul also wrote to Titus, and he talked about, in his case, he's like, when I found Jesus and the Holy Spirit, everything changed. And I like the what is it? It's the Message version, I think, is where I think it's Paul writing to Titus. Don't quote me here. But to paraphrase what he says, he goes, before Christ, I was driven every which way by my glands. And now, with Christ and the Holy Spirit, I'm a new man, and I'm living for him. I'm chasing him. I'm a different creation. And for me, actually adopting this Exile mentality, I don't make people at work call me Exile. That'd be weird. I'm not, but I actually, in my mind, in my imagination, as I started to train for this 100-miler and have to wrestle with my insecurities for hours on end on runs. I don't listen to music when I run. I don't know why. It doesn't work for me. I think and I pray and I meditate, and I let my worries come up and my anxieties come up and my excitements come up. And I process a lot of emotion when I'm out on runs. And that's, I think, for me, part of why running has resonated with me. And I never thought it would. I was the guy that begrudgingly was going on the jog in 2011. And so adopting Exile became an intentional delineator of Nathan was that guy, 2018, who was totally crushed when his ego got poked and was trying to run races partly still for the attention, and was trying to lose weight but doing it alone, and couldn't get his balance right, and didn't actually make his family his priority when he thought it was, because he would insulate himself from truths that hurt. That was Nathan. Exile gets vulnerable with the guys at the workout. Exile gets up when the alarm goes off and goes for the run alone at 4:30 in the rain, because I'm running 100 miles in September. Exile is a Navy SEAL to the guys around him. Like, that's the kind of way the guys give me this respect that I'm not a Navy SEAL. Big disclaimer. Not even close. But I feel like the guys around me in this workout group give me this respect that they are giving me undeserved, and I want to earn it by living it, by doing it. And what a gift they are giving me to see me as Exile, as that guy for me to step up to, because how else am I going to get there? But to see myself as potentially that guy, for them to see me as that guy, and for me to go, today I get up when the alarm goes off and I run, because if I don't, am I actually being Exile or am I being Fat Nathan? I know that's rough, but that's where I went, look, Nathan would talk to himself negatively. Nathan would make excuses and blame other people for why he couldn't go on the run today. Well, I was up late because so-and-so took too long at the meeting and I didn't get enough sleep. And that was Nathan. Exile goes, I didn't get enough sleep. Good. I'm not going to get enough sleep on the day of the race. It's 100 miles. I'm going to be running for 24 hours plus. How much sleep am I going to get then? Not enough. So I'll have to get more sleep tomorrow. Right now, I'm getting up when the alarm goes off and running because I'm Exile. And
Golly.
I had to take that approach with myself. And where it really got hard was the diet. I like to eat stuff that tastes good and feel good. And that's where the Exile, that's where like taking on that identity and going like, Exile is a Formula One race car. Exile does not eat cake when he's training for a race. And for all of 2020, Exile did not eat cake. Exile tracked every calorie. Exile tracked every ounce of water in 2020 when training for a race.
Yeah.
But it helped me see what I was capable of being, not just doing, but see what I could be capable of being if I can build habits and if I can lean on the people around me that were willing and eager to help and support, like Brian at One Life and the guys around me at F3 and my wife and my kids, and actually take in their genuine support rather than looking for their compliments and attaboys, right? So I'm still relying on the human exchange, but I was leaning into the deep relational stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's so important is like for the listeners out there, obviously there's no requirement to you legitimately take on a new name form and have this entire crazy intervention. But I think what's important is the idea of having that identity shift. And I remember we were talking about it a couple weeks ago, but I'm reading Atomic Habits right now, which I put off for reading that for way too long. But James Clear talks about how in order to build new habits, if you're going to build a new habit, that you can't be someone that says, hey, I'm trying to do this now, or I'm trying to do that now. If you're trying to get rid of a bad habit and say, I'm trying, like he used the example of a smoker, like you're not going to say I'm trying to stop smoking, but take that identity shift of, oh, I'm not a smoker now. So like if you're training for an ultra marathon, I am an ultra marathon runner, not, hey, I'm trying to see if I can maybe complete this ultra marathon, so I'm going to see what my training looks like. No, this is who I am. So like embodying that identity shift is the best way for you to personally fast track those results that you can do outside of, going and finding great relationships and mentors and guidance. But that identity shift is key. And I love that.
Yeah. And when done properly, in balance, in healthy relational rhythms, it's building a house on rock instead of building a house on sand. Because like I said, I've done the yo-yo 30. Mm-hmm. Something we call it an F3. That's another shorthand for gaining 30 pounds this year, losing it the next year, and then about 18 months later, you gain it again, then you lose it. Like that's such a common experience when I do a diet. Oh, I'm on keto. Oh, I'm doing 75 hard. Is a very different thing than for me personally. This is more recent, and I think it's better not to talk about a lot of the things like that we actually commit to than to talk about it, because we kind of get a little credit for saying, I'm doing 75 hard. I'm running. I found that like I would give I was kind of like inviting a little credit when I tell people I registered for a marathon. There's a balance of like, I do want some of that because I want people to know so that I'm accountable, and that helps. So it's a tension each person has to manage differently based on, hey, where am I at emotionally today? What am I trying to get from this exchange? So I'm not saying don't tell people if you start a new eating plan. I'm not saying you shouldn't tell people but it's good to weigh it before you go public with it, and just try and get all the credit for, because I've done that before, where I was going to do a marathon years and years ago, my first marathon I planned, and then I sprained an ankle, and then the narrative was like, oh, I was training for a marathon and I sprained my ankle, and I never picked back up the training and ran the marathon, but I was still looking for the credit of I was going to do it, right?
Yeah.
So, but something for me, I've just learned, Nathan loves donuts. I love donuts. We've got a donut shop. They've got 2 locations, one in Kenton and one in Woodstock, called Ray's Donuts. That is like a legit local fresh donuts shop, and they're amazing. And I cannot have a donut. If I have a donut, I have donuts.
Yeah.
I don't. So just last year, I mean, several months ago, I just decided I just don't eat donuts anymore. I don't eat donuts. And what you said, when you and I actually talked about that a few weeks ago, about the, hey, don't just say I'm not, I can't right now. Hey, I can't drink this, that, or, well, I'm not doing it right now. It's like, no, just say I don't.
Yeah.
When we accept that identity of it, of just, hey, I don't eat donuts. It's a chosen identity move now, not a, well, I can't right now. I'm on a diet. I'm doing 75 hard. And it's like, that's such a complex whole thing versus just the ownership of, I don't eat donuts. And if people press me on like, you don't eat donuts, you don't like donuts? I say, no, I love donuts. I just don't eat them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they ask more questions, I go, look, if I have a donut, I have 2 donuts. It's like, I'm like an alcoholic, but with donuts. I just am. And I recognize that about myself. And so if that's the case, you know what? I don't eat donuts.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at in life. So I hesitate to tell you that, because I don't even want it to be a public thing that I get credit for from telling you. But if it can help anybody else to hear like, hey, that might be, that's not my original idea either. All these nothing's new under the sun. So if we can share in ways that help others, but that's been my thing for months now, is, hey, I just don't eat donuts. And it has been a positive thing. There's a lot of little things in my life that I'm trying to, nope. It's what you just said with James Clear. It's not, well, I can't right now, I'm on this diet. It's like, no, I don't eat donuts.
Yeah. Just embodying that identity. I love that.
I need that guardrail. So I'm owning that guardrail.
Love it. Well, as we kind of continue to move through the show, the one segment that I've been starting to implement is a new segment called "Who's Taking Steps," and it's a segment where people from the audience, listeners, will have the opportunity to send in ways that they've either taken steps, are currently taking steps, plan on taking steps towards taking action on reaching their God-given potential. And this week we had Craig Barton actually send in just the steps that he's planning on taking in his life currently. And he sent 3 different bullets, and I'd love to kind of talk about those with you just for a brief moment. But he said, first, he's seeking out a faith-based community. Second, he's executing daily disciplines in his faith, fitness, relationships, and work to set himself up for success in the future. So building out those disciplines right now. And then third, substituting social media consumption for educational videos and podcasts. So I think it's really just cool. I want to talk about it, just the power of being able to, when I read these 3, the thought that comes to my mind is the idea of intentionality, and like just being intentional behind what you want to do, having an understanding for what you want to do, and being intentional behind that. And I think that's something that Craig really understands. Just saying, hey, I'm seeking out how I'm going to build my faith-based community. He's being intentional about going out and finding that. He's executing daily disciplines in his faith, fitness, relationships, and work. So like he's being intentional about, hey, how can I build out these disciplines in my schedule, not just kind of winging it day by day. And then substituting his social media consumption for educational based videos and podcasts, instead of like getting caught in the world of what the algorithm's going to feed you through your social media. Hey, I'm going to be intentional about programming what I allow into my mind and what I allow my mind to dwell on to be something that's going to benefit me through something that's going to educate me through a video, something I'm going to learn on a podcast, and just being intentional with that approach.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, just to kind of wrap up the episode, I first of all appreciate the time. I think there's so much value and so many great nuggets that we've been able to kind of build upon in this episode. And one thing that I want to kind of leave this podcast on is so through Take a Step, I want to help people discover their purpose and take action on that purpose. That's kind of my main mission through Take a Step. And I want to hear from you, because you seem to be someone, just through this conversation, through your fitness, through your family, through your work, you seem to be someone who's really taken action to create the life that you want to live and build that foundation towards living the life you want to live. And I think today we live in a society where people can get caught in the trap of falling prey to the system, of falling, they get a job, an entry level job, and they feel trapped in that. And the only way forward is just to kind of work their way up in an area that they might not feel true purpose and passion behind. So my question to you is to leave off this episode is, what do you think keeps people from taking action on living a life that they actually want to live and that actually brings them fulfillment and purpose?
Yeah. A dynamic that I feel I see a lot myself that I have to watch for, and I definitely see in others in groups I'm part of, and that I just find talking about helps, is we are often playing not to fail instead of playing to win. It's really easy to fall into that reactive, I'm just trying to avoid failure. I'm just trying to find out what the parameters are so I'm not a failure, and let me just do what it takes to not be that. And it's not an intentional choice. It's a natural reaction. Our brain is hardwired to snap to attention of threats. Our brain is hardwired to observe the lion's coming after me, and I need to act and do something. I need to run. I need to hide. Right? We have a very strong emotional reaction to perceived threats or real threats, and that can drive a lot of that internal dialogue. And we will find that in all walks of life, individually and then collectively. And so I think spending time regularly reflecting on what that win looks like, envisioning it, for your career, for your marriage, like get with your spouse and be actually connecting with what is your dream future, and then what's realistic dream, like really go for it. And actually, let's prepare for success. In my business life and my work life, that's what things we're talking about is our company's growing right now. And we're having a lot of conversation right now, trying to keep it top of mind. Like, hey, most companies fail when they're growing. And I think a lot of it has to do that we will instinctively turn towards trying to focus on how not to fail. What if we're wildly successful? What if we see 60% growth in the next 18 months? Ooh, that might actually crush us and kill us. Okay, but is it plausible? Maybe 30%. Oh, that's still a lot. Are we prepared for that? Well, no, we were just trying to keep up with things in the current state. Okay, well, we need to do that, but can we balance maintaining our current with planning for the future, intending to succeed? If I knew, and this isn't a new concept, but if I knew I was going to succeed, how would I actually act? What would I be focusing on? What would my priorities be? Where would I be putting my energy each day? And actually preparing for growth. And so we have to have this balance of spending time getting into and reflecting on what does success look like for me, and how would I actually prepare for that? Whereas I don't know about everybody out there, but for me, I will instinctively retreat to the cynical. I'll Eeyore real quick.
Yeah. You said something a second ago. Like most companies fail when they're growing. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a concept that I heard a couple months ago that failure is a necessity for growth. You know what I mean? Like in order to grow, and it goes back to what we were talking about the ego earlier. Like you need to be willing to fail. You need to be willing to have people walk you through the right way because you did the wrong way. But at least you took action on that way. So
Yes.
now you can grow
Yes.
from it.
And then exactly. And then you're at what started this topic in the first place was your questions. How do we get that first step going? You
Mm,
know, get
yeah.
it envisioned and be looking at not just avoiding failure, because if I'm avoiding failure, I might just hide and huddle and hunker down. And I've done that tons of times, and I've never been proud of it. I've never been thrilled with the results. I've
Mm,
always been more pleased with when I took the risk and failed and grew from it.
mm, love it. Awesome. Well, I think that is a great way to cap it off. And I want to say, Nathan or Exile, thank you for taking the time and coming on today. And for everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening on. And especially if you're watching on YouTube, we're new on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe. You're not too big on social media, or you don't have much of a social presence, do you?
I don't, for the same reason as donuts.
Love it. Hey, building out the
Don't have it.
disciplines. Building out the disciplines. That's great, because I would love to wanted to see if there was a way for people to connect with you if they had any questions. But no, that personal discipline takes priority 100%. So thanks for joining. I hope you got as much out of this as I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, guys, we will talk to you in the next episode. Peace.